This Future Construct podcast episode is supported by Applied Software. Applied Software is on a mission to transform industry by empowering their clients and championing innovation with real-world expert consultants. So visit asti.com, it's ASTI.com, and please let them know that we here at Future Construct and BIM Designs sent you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Future Construct podcast. I'm your host, Amy Peck. This is a very special episode. This is our 1-year anniversary, and it is extra special because our guest today is Salla Eckhardt from Microsoft, who was our very first guest. You were the first person who said yes and said, I'm coming on, and you launched us. And so I am forever grateful for that. Welcome, Salla.
Thank you so much, Amy, and happy birthday to the Future Construct. It's amazing to be back. I can never say no to good opportunities like this. You guys are amazing, and it's been truly a pleasure to listen to the podcast in the past year. Amazing guests.
Thanks so much. So let's talk about, how has it been over the last year and a half? I mean, we've all had different kinds of challenges, working from home, sort of going back to work. How has it been for you?
Oh, it's been like a interesting year. Some good, some bad. And when thinking about the working from home scenario, it's not a secret that people know that I'm very career oriented and I have big dreams to become the C-suite level executive someday. So working from the woods and dealing with the very choppy internet and sometimes power outages, that definitely put a flavor into how to actually do my work. And then like people probably noticed that the background is different now. So I'm back in Seattle. And my cat, the Bengal that everyone got to see on videos, she died of bone cancer this August. So there was that big loss. So now it's a matter of readjusting to city life without my cat companion and seeing where we go and continue forward with the big dreams that I have.
Well, that's good. And I'm so sad to hear that. However, we do still have that little bit of video. So she is forever memorialized with us here on the Future Construct. So she'll always have a place in our hearts.
Excellent. Thank you.
So let's talk about some of the trends. I mean, I hate to say the meta word and the metaverse. And I do think we're in the throes of a bit of a hype cycle. And, relative to the built environment, we look at digital twins that, could very easily be kind of turned into a type of metaverse that we can actually go in and experience. I think there's some great utility. I haven't quite figured out how yet that translates into maybe sort of a consumer realm, but it's easy to see how it sort of wires into smart cities. But how are you thinking about this next evolution and all of this hype around the metaverse and digital twins?
Well, I'm personally very excited about it. And before I even learned the term metaverse, I was already talking about simulated reality, and that must have popped up in some of the discussions that I've had. So I think that that's a great opportunity, and especially when thinking that how might the built environment actually deliver the metaverse. Digital building lifecycle is one route to take and think about how do we actually construct the digital truth of something that might or might not physically exist as well. But then when thinking about the end users of the metaverse, how people can maybe come out from their shells in the digital environment if they're introverted when they're in the social environment physically, but then they come out as more extroverted when they are having the same experience in fully digital format. I'm super excited about seeing like what kind of personalities I get to meet when people don't have to worry about their physical being.
Yeah, I think it is a tremendous opportunity. And I think, I've been working in, both VR and AR for a long time, and a lot of the behavioral science and behavioral health, and being able to overcome different kinds of personal and social challenges in these environments, it can be really, really therapeutic. From the digital twin standpoint, do you see, I mean, it makes so much sense anecdotally, but it seems to be hard in practice. You mentioned end-to-end kind of, building management and building life cycle. There are gaps where we're not really leveraging the technology through the entire process. Why do you think that is? And how can we change that, where this just becomes, you're basically building your as-built as you're building the building? How do we get there?
Excellent question. That's the challenge of how traditional the built environment industry wants to remain. There's nothing wrong with being proud with being traditional, but if it becomes an anchor and it becomes something that is holding us back from doing things differently and doing things better, then it's a moment for a serious reevaluation and thinking, how do we actually plan to deliver something that has never existed before? And really re-engineering the processes and the roles of people who are creating that digital truth. So it's basically a huge change management problem from the people's side. People already have learned how to deliver their daily tasks and their daily business processes, and people don't really love change. But that's what metaverse actually requires from us, that we really have to think deeply that what is our role, what are we aiming to deliver, and what is the outcome that we are all aiming for. And it might be that it needs to be delivered in pieces rather than something that is a one big entity and submitting that, but it's something that we can continuously construct digitally and let everyone participate and edit what we've created.
I love that, and I'm all for, especially this sort of concept of the open metaverse. There's an organization called the Open Metaverse, and I urge people to take a look. So when you think about the again, this sort of end-to-end strategy and where we are today, you mentioned change management. What are some of the steps? Because I think there's sort of this future vision piece that this simulation gives us, right? So we can actually rethink how we do everything. But then there's the practical steps. And I even remember in our very first conversation, you said something that was so smart. It's like, you have to be where people live, like today. You can't give them this sort of future vision just all at once. You need to step them into it. How do we close that gap between this future vision of how we can do everything in a different and better way from where we are right now?
There's how do we tell the story that what's in it for individuals, and how do we make the metaverse the better option compared to how things are managed or executed right now, and really listening to what people expect from the metaverse, what their fears are, and having that open conversation. Overall, thinking about the past digital transformations and how they were ran through, there wasn't necessarily enough discussion with people and hearing what they think about the solutions, what their needs are, what their fears are, what do they want to deliver for the entity, and really making them the owners of their piece in the puzzle rather than excluding them and saying that we'll take it from here. And that's the difficult part, because who wants to have additional work on their plate? I'm one of them, but that's how I personally prefer things. But then how do we get the masses of people excited about something that they have never experienced before? They are the pioneers in the industry as they start experiencing new digital environments. And then become the builders that don't necessarily know how to use the current tools, but in the future, the tools might be something that are more intuitive and more like playing with Lego blocks. Who knows what the future will bring, but I'm truly hopeful that people will see it as an opportunity for them to be the creators rather than only the consumers.
And then how are you thinking about in your day-to-day because it feels like the metaverse just dropped out of the sky, which it did not. It's you could argue that it's really just the 3D internet, and we've been engaging in a version of the metaverse for many years, but now it seems to be front and center. And so, is it something that has impacted your day to day? Is it something you're hearing kind of murmurings, through the organization?
It is definitely something that Microsoft is looking into, and since we are the real estate organization managing the portfolio that Microsoft owns and occupies, it is definitely something that is in my radar in the center of innovation. And now that we have our BIM program running, we are delivering our own digital twins, etc. Metaverse is already in our radar, and definitely we're looking into what kind of bits and pieces do we want to integrate into it.
Oh, good. Well, I'd like to go a little bit deeper, but we're going to take a little moment now to hear from our sponsors, and we will be right back. This episode of the Future Construct podcast is supported by the amazing team at Applied Software. They have solutions for any modern project. Applied Software is on a mission to transform industry by empowering their clients and being the champions of innovation with their real-world expert consultants. They have a comprehensive suite of solutions for AEC, MEP, and manufacturing, and they have a singular focus to help you achieve higher performance. They have software, training, support, consulting, and custom development. Applied Software has you absolutely covered for all of your workflow needs. And BIM Designs is proud to be a client and partner of Applied Software. So visit ASTI.com, that is ASTI.com, and please let them know that Future Construct and BIM Designs sent you. And we are back with Salla Eckhardt. So let's talk about, I think you're also a big believer in, and you look at really all of the emerging technologies. Are there some new technologies or combinations of technologies that you're particularly excited about or that you're studying?
One kind of a scope that I'm super excited about is the visual data, and how can we start managing the built environment using more visual data than just the traditional database data that looks like charts, and people have to really think deeply, what are they extracting from that? And so anything that is visual data that enables us to have a glimpse of something that we are supposed to make an educated decision on, that's what really intrigues me, that how do we make data more consumable for people and ensure that what we are communicating or what is communicated to us is something that we all understand the same way. And especially when thinking about how the built environment industry is now shifting more from being just local to being global, that we are going to be dealing with lots of different cultures and lots of different people who have different languages, etc. So overall, I'm super excited about visual data management.
Yeah, so I actually was just talking with one of your colleagues, Mike Pell, about this exact topic, and what is the visual language of data, and this opportunity of actually being able to work with data in 3D environments from the inside out. And I don't think we've quite cracked what that visual language looks like. We're still bringing in these 2D constructs into 3D. And is this something that you've looked at, or have you seen anyone really pushing the envelope in terms of how we can start to parse this data and make completely new and broader inferences?
Yeah, definitely there are excellent examples from my previous home country, Finland. There is a company called Zoan that has been creating digital twins and digital experiences for years already. And then when thinking about the Digital Twin Consortium, that has a lot of members that are dealing with exactly what you're describing. So a lot of good stuff is happening, and it's up to the consumers to really start embracing that. What does it mean to consume fully immersive visual data rather than have the movie experience or the TV experience of looking at things but not really being fully immersed? What I'm curious about visual data is that how do we trigger the feelings and the emotions in people that some people call the spidery senses. But that's exactly what I want to trigger with visual data in people, that how do we extract a feeling or an emotion that might be helping us prevent an issue from becoming a problem. And that's something that I haven't really seen solid experiences or solutions for. It's still been very, very much something that you can look at, but you can't really immerse in.
I love that explanation. And, when we start to think about, the built environments, if you look at, buildings are the anchors of cities, and then the built environment and digital twins are really going to be the anchor for smart cities. And what does that kind of workflow look like? I mean, we're still working on, every building becoming a smart building, which is a process. Hopefully we'll start to have standards where every building built then has a new standard process where they're essentially building the, again, that as built as it's being built. But then that next step of really wiring it into smart cities, and smart cities in a way that enables exactly what you're talking about, human experience, because we don't hear a lot of people talking about it. It's sort of this enabling technology, but it's not about the human experience. And so, I would love to hear your opinion on that more, because like what you just said was so eloquent.
Yeah, smart cities, that's what a lot of different regions and markets and cities have been aiming for decades already. But the way of how do we actually create that reliable as built, and how do we capture things so that it doesn't break the bank to do, or it doesn't take years to deliver, that's the tough nut to crack. That how do we embrace a technology that is very easy to use, is data secure, doesn't violate privacy, etc. So there are a lot of questions in terms of how do we actually do the capturing to then enable those amazing end user experiences. I guess I don't have a good solution for it, but I'm open to entertain the idea that how might we actually do it? What would be the technologies that people are comfortable with, and how do we actually include the citizens into creating their own smart cities, so that it's not only up to the government to do?
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's sort of a crowdsourced component. We sort of think about the AR cloud, where we have all these sensors. We're going to have autonomous vehicles that are going to constantly be scanning using LiDAR. And that data that gets discarded because it already knows, it's not looking for that, right? It's looking for the anomaly, but the data that it's not using is valuable and kind of truing up the AR cloud. But again, that infrastructure, and cities have to agree on the standards of managing that data and handling that data and where it comes from. And of course, our smartphones can start to be, recording everything and everywhere. But again, that's that privacy concern. And how do we manage that? I think these are all tough questions. Maybe there are no answers to it, but I'd love to hear more about how you're thinking about that. And are there other technologies that you think we need to bring into play, like maybe blockchain, and how would that kind of fit into the equation?
Yeah, that might be one. And then one that I haven't really had my hands on yet is haptics, and how there is an opportunity to really engage the end users more into that creation of the smart city or the metaverse, etc. How can we bring technology onto our own skin to really make it more personable for us, and making it that people feel like they are actually participating in the creation process, rather than just being the end users that get what is delivered for them. So I guess once I get my hands on haptics and I get to see what that technology delivers, and once I see more and more wearable electronics come, and see more of the integration of smart rings and smart wearables with the built environment, then I guess we can continue innovating from there. But that's what I'm craving for. That's something that I could put on and start creating the smart environment with something that I'm in control of.
I love that. And I think that there's also a piece of it that is a new kind of social media and sharing paradigm, where you actually have these experiences. You you record them in 3D, and then you can sort of anchor them. You can have them spatially anchored, and then it could be triggered by a geofence if in your, anyone in your circle could then choose to perhaps see those experiences. So I think it opens up a lot of possibilities. And again, I think it's a way that maybe people aren't thinking about smart cities and smart buildings, because it has much more of kind of a social and sort of consumer impact. And we're still struggling with, all right, how do we get the utility in?
Exactly. And overall, it feels like today it's been more about creating the services for the end users rather than including the end users and creating the services for themselves. So I'm really curious about the piece in the puzzle with the end users in their own end user experience, and how do we get people to understand that they can have the expectations of what a smart city or a smart campus might look like and feel like, but not have the expectation that everything is perfected for them without any input from themselves. So I'm really hopeful with the Industry 5.0 coming, that how do we help end users mass customize their own experiences and just create the platforms that people can then play in.
And I love the way you think about the future and innovation. So I'd love a peek in kind of just your day to day. Like, what does your day look like? Like, how do you attack? I mean, there's so much that you have to be aware of and on top of and have an opinion about and report on. So what does a day in the life of Salla Eckhardt look like?
Oh, it's a lot of fun. It's usually like 14 meetings per day. So it's a lot of interaction with people and learning from them as much as I can. And I'm so lucky that I get to kind of hear stories and engage in multiple different topics during the same day. So it might be that now we are talking about metaverse. The next meeting might be about building information models. A third meeting might be something that is related to end user experiences. My days are very, very mixed and very rich in the content that I get to experience and talk about with people. And I'm surrounded with like super smart people. So it's every day it is super good for me.
I love that. I love that. So I'm going to ask you the question. I asked it to you a year ago. Maybe it's changed. If you could project yourself 20, 25 years in the future, and you could bring with you any product or service that would just make you personally happy.
I would really want to create the digital twin of myself and insert it into a digital like metaverse of my own like dream world, and see what I could come up with. It would be like my choice now would be my own ring.
I love that. I think you could probably do that in the next year. Yeah, I don't even think you have to wait 20 years. But I absolutely believe without a shadow of a doubt that you are going to achieve all of your goals, including being on the C-suite. And maybe if you're willing to come back and make this an annual event with us next year, maybe that'll be the announcement. I hope so.
Oh, thank you so much. And let's lock it in.
All right, let's do it. I'm in.
You.
Thanks so much, Salla.
Thank you, Amy.